Ever wondered why orchids are so captivating with their stunning variety of colors and unique shapes? It's no surprise that these exotic beauties have captivated the hearts of plant lovers worldwide. Orchids are part of an incredibly diverse plant family, boasting over 25,000 unique species. From the vibrant hues of the Phalaenopsis to the delicate forms of the Cattleya, there's an orchid to suit every aesthetic taste. Now you may have heard that orchids are notoriously difficult to care for, but let's debunk that myth right here. While these tropical gems do have specific care requirements, they're not overly complex or impossible to meet. With a bit of understanding and patience, you can successfully grow and maintain orchids in your home, transforming your space into a lush, tropical haven. So, are you ready to dive into the world of orchids? With the right knowledge, anyone can turn their home into a tropical paradise filled with these exotic beauties. The first step in your orchid care journey is choosing the right variety. It's like finding a new roommate. You want to make sure their lifestyle aligns with yours. Let's consider the Phalaenopsis, or moth orchid. This variety is a great choice for beginners. It's adaptable, forgiving, and blooms for months. Plus it's happy in the same comfortable room temperatures we humans enjoy. On the other hand, the Cattleya, often seen in corsages, is a bit more demanding, requiring higher light levels and more precise watering. But for those willing to put in a little extra effort, the reward is large, fragrant blooms. Take into account your home's light, temperature, and humidity levels, as well as the time you can dedicate to care. Remember, there's an orchid for every home and lifestyle. With a little research, you can find the perfect orchid that fits seamlessly into your life. Just like us, orchids need the right amount of light to thrive. Orchids, with their beautiful blooms and unique shapes, are not your typical houseplants. Their needs are a bit more specific, especially when it comes to lighting. Now you might be wondering, how much light do orchids really need? The answer is, it varies, but generally they prefer bright, indirect light. Think of it this way. Orchids are native to tropical rainforests, where the sunlight filters through the canopy of trees above. So too much direct sunlight can actually scorch their leaves, while too little can stunt their growth and prevent blooming. The trick is to find that sweet spot in between. A good rule of thumb is to aim for about 10 to 15 hours of light per day. If your orchid's leaves are a healthy, vibrant green, then you've hit the lighting jackpot. Remember, correct lighting is a game changer for your orchid's overall health and flowering. Watering is essential, but it's also where many orchid novices slip up. So, let's get to the bottom of this. Orchids aren't your typical houseplants. They hail from tropical and subtropical regions, where they absorb water not from the soil but from the air around them. This means they don't appreciate being drenched all the time. As a rule of thumb, watering once a week is usually enough. However, this can vary depending on the type of orchid, the size of the pot, and the humidity in your home. If you're unsure, feel the potting medium. If it's still damp, hold off on watering for a few more days. Overwatering is a common misstep that can lead to root rot, a condition that can be fatal to your orchid. So it's better to err on the side of caution and water less frequently. Remember, when it comes to watering your orchids, less is often more. Orchids are tropical plants and they love warm, humid conditions. To keep your orchids happy, aim for a humidity level around 50 to 70%. You can achieve this by placing a tray of water near your plant, or by using a humidifier. In the dry winter months, this can make all the difference. Temperature is also key. Most orchids prefer a daytime temperature between 65 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and a nighttime temperature around 15 degrees lower. This mimics their natural tropical environment and encourages healthy growth. But remember, not all orchids are the same. Some types, like the Dendrobium and Cymbidium, can tolerate cooler conditions. Others, like the Vanda, crave heat. So, do a little research on your specific type of orchid to ensure you're providing the right conditions. Recreating a tropical environment at home is easier than you might think. With a little attention to humidity and temperature, your orchids can thrive. Feeding your orchids is like treating them to a gourmet meal. You wouldn't want to eat the same thing every day, and neither do your orchids. They crave variety, but not just any food will do. Orchids require a balanced diet of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the three key ingredients in most orchid fertilizers. But they also need trace elements like calcium and magnesium. Different fertilizers offer these nutrients in varying ratios, so it's important to choose one that's right for your specific type of orchid. Now, how often should you feed these exotic beauties? A good rule of thumb is to fertilize lightly with every watering, which for most orchids is about once a week. This may seem frequent, but remember, we're aiming for a light feeding. It's like giving them a steady stream of nutrition to keep them healthy and happy. And remember, over-fertilizing can be just as harmful as under-fertilizing. So moderation is key. With the right nutrition, your orchids will reward you with robust growth and vibrant blooms. Potting and repotting are key to keeping your orchids healthy. Let's dive into this crucial aspect of orchid care. When it comes to potting for the first time or repotting, the choice of pot and potting mix is critical. Orchids are unique. They don't thrive in regular potting soil. Instead, they prefer a mix of bark, moss, and charcoal, which mimics their natural habitat on tree branches. Next up, the pot. Opt for one with plenty of drainage holes to prevent waterlogging. Orchids love snug spaces, so pick a pot that's just big enough for the root system. Every 2 to 3 years, your orchid will likely outgrow its pot. That's when repotting comes into play. Gently remove the orchid, trim any dead roots, and place it in a slightly larger pot with fresh mix. Remember, potting and repotting might seem daunting, but it's all about giving your orchid a home it loves. Proper potting ensures your orchids have the best foundation for growth. Like all living things, orchids can have their off days. If your orchid leaves are yellowing, it could be due to excessive light or overwatering. Reduce the light exposure or adjust your watering schedule accordingly. Pests can also be a nuisance. Mealybugs, spider mites, and scale are common culprits. Treat these by wiping the leaves with a soft cloth soaked in a solution of water and mild dish soap. For persistent problems, consider using an insecticidal soap or oil. Diseases such as root rot and leaf spot can be troublesome too. If you spot dark, mushy roots or spots on the leaves, it's time to take action. Remove the affected parts, repot the plant in fresh potting mix, and avoid overwatering in the future. Lastly, environmental stress from sudden temperature changes or low humidity can cause bud drop. Maintain a consistent environment and your orchid will thank you. Knowing how to spot and solve these issues will ensure your orchids stay in top shape. One of the most rewarding aspects of orchid care is witnessing their stunning blooms. But how do you coax these exotic beauties to reveal their spectacular flowers? It's a dance of precision and patience, starting with the right light and temperature conditions. Orchids, especially the popular Phalaenopsis and Cattleya varieties, need a slight drop in temperature to trigger blooming. So maintaining your orchid in a cooler spot for a few weeks can be the nudge it needs to start flowering. Next, let's talk about aftercare. Once your orchid has bloomed, it's not the end of the story. After the flowers fade, it's time to prune. Trim the stem just above the node where the first flower bloomed. This may encourage a second bloom. Remember, each orchid is unique and may have its own blooming cycle. With patience and care, you'll be rewarded with breathtaking blooms. It's a journey worth every step, and the destination is a sight to behold. So, are you ready to embark on your orchid care journey? We've demystified the art of orchid care for you, making it accessible and straightforward. From understanding the diversity and unique beauty of orchids, selecting the perfect variety for your home, to providing essential care tips including lighting, watering, humidity, and temperature control, feeding, potting, and repotting. We've also tackled common problems you might encounter and how to solve them, and gave you insights on how to encourage your orchids to bloom. With this knowledge, you are now equipped to grow these exotic beauties in your own home. Start small, perhaps with a Phalaenopsis or a Cattleya, and watch them thrive under your care. The joy of seeing your orchid bloom will be worth every bit of effort. Don't forget to share your orchid care journey in the comments, and remember to like, share, and subscribe for more plant care guides.